Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free at AAA.com/Commanders. Hello, babies. How are we today? What is it? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday, everybody. How we doing here? These Monday night games throw me off a little bit. How we doing here today, Callow? What's going on?
Better now. We have a little bit of sleep in the system too. I don't know about you. I feel way better today than I did yesterday physically. Yeah. So yeah.
I was pumped to see that one of my favorite comedic actors, Tim Robinson, has a new show on HBO called The Chair Company. So I got to fall into something other than football for a few minutes last night and watch the first episode of that. And it was, he plays a doofus in a office environment, and crazy things happen, and that or not even like crazy things happen, something that shouldn't be a big deal becomes an enormous deal, and he doesn't know how to handle it because he's the most socially awkward person on earth. So it's right up my alley. Very happy it showed up. Hate HBO. They don't let me binge things. They make me go week by week by week, but there was that, and that made me pleased last night. So I got to escape. I got a little escapism last night. It was nice.
Your escape was different than mine because I had to jump right into Caps right after my show. So for me, they won. But 8:30, I was like fighting for my life, staying awake essentially because I was regretting Monday night Mike's choices going into Tuesday night. So I just had to do that. But yes, they did win. But you know how this works too. Of course you had a long night. Of course you ran, low on sleep. Of course it went to overtime. So you got to work a little bit longer than you have to normally. So
they got through quickly in overtime, though. Give them that. They got quickly in overtime. All right.
But you know how this works. You got to hit those overtime breaks. So it's a guaranteed couple of spots that you normally don't have to run and all that. But, it was a fun one. I'm glad they won.
All right. As for the Commanders, I'll do a review for you in a minute. But I just want to kind of start here really because I do feel like it is good they have a short week. It could be bad. We'll see what ends up happening. But I actually feel like one of the first times under this new era that they've got, not finger pointing, but they got the opportunity for it. This is the gut punch of all gut punches, especially at the time of the season. It was at home, so much hype. They blew it. Frankly, it was their mistakes that ended up, losing the game. I actually thought on both sides of the ball in reviewing it, to be fair, I thought the Bears were kind of the better team. So it was one of those when you watch it, you go, I think the team who played better just in general won. I think if I were them, I would be kind of looking at the fact that Washington made so many mistakes and you needed to barely get by. And I would be a little concerned if I were them off of that. But a win's a win's a win. I saw Ben Johnson yesterday, yelling at Troy Aikman because obviously I didn't hear, the commentary because I was calling the game. But I guess he wasn't overly he wasn't positive about what they were doing out there. And I guess they heard it and were yelling back. And part of their thing was, it's very hard to win in this league. It is. It's very hard to win in this league. We forgot about that for a year. And welcome to the new normal where it's back to being hard. Even though you have number 5, it is hard to win in the league. And I would just say this. I think the short week's a good thing for them because they just have to get into prep for Dallas. It's a big game again. It's a division game. It's a rival game. They're going to be hearing a lot about that this week. So we can put the past in the past very quickly, but they got to show up. And I think more than anything, for a couple of reasons, that the D needs to lead the way here. One, they need another bounce back because, look, I know Jaden fumbled the ball at the end of the game, but I fall into the camp of this was really a team loss. And if you really rewatch and you think about it, it really was. And just because he fumbled the ball doesn't mean the D couldn't make a stop at the end of the game, which they did not. Could they have at bare minimum forced a long field goal, give their team time to come back? That didn't happen either. The D gave up a ridiculous touchdown in the fourth quarter when they were up by 8. That shouldn't have happened. So this was totally a team loss. And then secondarily, not only do they just need to have a bounce back as a group off of what they did the other day, this is the one thing that Dallas is killing it with. I mean, Dak is in an MVP conversation not because of the team's record or that anyone believes they're really right now a playoff team, but he's lighting it up like very few light it up. George Pickens has had an outrageous start to the season for them. I think they're going to get CeeDee Lamb back. And unless we plan on being in a game that's 48-45, the D better show up here. Otherwise, we're going to be scratching our heads big time next week going, is the season over?
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at things too, the offense is good for 20 to 27 points just showing up. I, mentioned it yesterday. If you had told me Jaden Daniels was going to drop, what was it yesterday or a Monday, 24 points with no Terry, no Noah Brown, a 7th round, running back, half of Debo, right? It wasn't even Debo at full strength. If you'd have told me they were going to drop that many points, I'd say, okay, good. What's the defense going to do? And they couldn't just hold up. But I'm with you. This was a team loss. There were mistakes all the way around. But the defense, I think, is the one that really needs to clean things up more than just about any other facet of the game. And it starts, in Dallas against a team, by the way, which I know, like, no one's assuming anything, but this team was a thorn in your side last year without Dak,
yes.
Right? Like, that's what worries me so much about this weekend is that Dak didn't play them last year. They beat them at home, one, and then the second one, yeah, I know Mariota played, but it still took a last-second touchdown to beat them. So it worries me that team, actually handled this one pretty well last year.
It's a division game. It's their rival. They don't win a lot down there. Yep. If they were to win, because they won the last game of the regular season down there, if they win down there on Sunday, it'll be the first time they've won 2 straight games in Dallas in a decade. So They don't win a lot down there. And so like it's going to be a hard game no matter what. And again, I'll reiterate, like, I haven't watched a ton of them yet, but Dak is really on it this year. I mean, he has had I know for years and years, everyone's, oh, is he this or is he that or whatever? Like, they're not playing with a full deck either. Like, their offensive line has had a ton of injuries. They switched around their running backs. Williams has turned out to be very good for them. I would bet they're regretting the Rico Dowdle thing. I don't even know why they let him. Like, that didn't even make sense to me why they let him go. He had really turned the corner, but whatever. Lamb is awesome, but not like us. Like, Terry hadn't played in a few weeks. Neither is he. Like, he hurt his ankle. It hasn't slowed them down at all. They're the highest scoring team in the NFL. Dak has a ridiculous stat line right now. He is really killing it right now. Pickens numbers. It's funny. I go to this local cigar store, and there's this Cowboys fan, and we end up having a conversation every time I'm in there. And and every time, the last couple of weeks, he's like, should they pay Pickens now? And I go, please do that. Please do that. I go, you haven't even seen 17 games of him yet. And I go, and oh, by the way, there's a reason why he's not on Pittsburgh right now. So please give him all the money up front off of a third of a season. And let's just see how that works out for you long term with him. But as of the first 5-6 games, he's been outrageously good. He's got some crazy streak going where he's had at least 50 yards receiving and a touchdown in 5 straight games. No one else has that. So their offense, specifically their passing game, is killing it right now.
Yeah, and I was going to say that's without CeeDee Lamb. With CeeDee Lamb being out, it seems like he's actually picked up the role a little bit more. I would say this too, you really want to pay him when you've already paid CeeDee Lamb and you've got other people that you got to pay and you're paying Dak Prescott, all that too. Good luck with that, with all the other contract situations that you've got going there. But yeah, the Dallas offense is not the problem. Clearly, it's a little bit similar to here. The offense is not the problem.
I haven't lost my voice yet this year. I got a funny feeling this is the one. Because if there's gonna be 12 touchdowns scored, and there might be, this is gonna be the one. Obviously, the matchup I'll be watching, and again, we'll get more into it later in the week. But because short week, we've turned it around so fast here. Jake Ferguson is having an outstanding year. He's put up some metrics in the first 5-6 games that very few tight ends have ever put up, in history. And as we know, the real issue with the Washington defense in terms of big plays, typically good tight ends, good running backs. And Ferguson is having a Pro Bowl All-Pro type year for Dallas. So this is going to be a matchup that I'll be very interested to talk to Dan Quinn about. How do they handle him this weekend?
Yeah, especially too, retrospect does help in some aspects. Remember, we were kind of saying, oh, they didn't let, Brock Bowers do anything. We then come to find out Brock Bowers had a really bad injury. Basically he was playing hurt, and then he ended up resting the next week or 2 weeks. I think it might have even been at this point. So this is another one where the stats actually don't even say it either about how they might have locked a guy down. He might have just been banged up. Yeah, I'm definitely worried about Ferguson and all of this too.
Yep. And I do think this, and this is really the first time I feel this way. This is a locker room test for Washington. It really is. Last year, they took some losses. They lost 3 in a row. They bounced back from them. There was a but in Pittsburgh. They got a bad spot. They lost by a point. They gave up a late but. And Pittsburgh at that point was hot. They lost to Dallas. That was the head scratcher of the group because Dallas didn't have a great record. There was some bad turn of events, a couple special teams plays that went sideways on them. They still could have got to overtime and didn't. There were some buts, but it was the one where I'm like, all right, this is the one that they got to answer for. Then they turned around and had to play Philadelphia short week. Philadelphia's got the best record in the NFL. They hadn't lost in weeks. And this team was really beat up and needed a bye. And the whole time I'm walking up there going, if they pull this off, it's going to be like a miracle because of how beat up they are. And they lost. And I don't think anyone got too upset about it because it was close. This is the first one. Atlanta too a little bit, and maybe Green Bay a little bit, but it was week 2 when that happened. But this is the first one because it was at home and there was so much hype around it. And it was their mistakes, and everybody's, not just the fumble, but everybody's, that I think where you go, okay, like, don't start finger pointing, keep this thing together. Like, everybody stay cool for a minute. It's 3-3 is not what we want, but 3-3 is what it is. And nothing's out of reach here. You're a game out of the division right now. To your point, if you can get to December and you're in striking distance of the Eagles, you're playing them twice in the last 3 weeks. Like, let's not think about getting to the path to getting to the playoffs as a wild card. The path is to win the division. And our quote unquote conference record right now won't matter if you go and win the division at the end of the year. So this is a test of, do you have the longevity in you to stay bought in, sold? And I want to see what happens this weekend because typically I don't care what that team's record is. Typically, they don't win down there. Typically, it's a really hard game. Their offense is really killing it right now early in the season. Our defense is not. It is ranked 26th in the NFL right now. The Bears had a couple weeks off. They had the second to worst rush defense in the league, and they fixed it against us, the number 1 rush offense. This is a big week to find out about what this locker room is made of. I think I know what it's made of, but we're going to find out on Sunday. It's a first real test of this new era.
There's a couple of factors here. One, because we were talking about that before the show, was yes, that last month of the season now, especially if the Eagles don't clean up their stuff too, and they kind of are just hanging around and you can be in striking distance, you have to survive as well all the way up to that point. There are 2 things here. We've said it. Dan Quinn is very good at keeping, the quote unquote brotherhood, with this team. Yeah. But I think you brought up a good point where he was talking about bad starts, and they continue to have bad starts. And do they finally kind of clean that up? Because when he's talking about it publicly, and this is any coach, not just Dan Quinn, when they're talking about it publicly, it means that they've talked about it a lot behind closed doors, that you're comfortable just talking about it in front. So that's one factor. Do they finally clean that up? The other thing is, I'll go back to them a couple weeks ago when Joe Witt Jr. was the one saying, yeah, they're hearing the noise a little bit. Like the DB room and the defense was hearing the noise a little bit. Well, I don't know how much, louder it's going to get after what happened on Monday night. So it tells me, too, they're probably paying attention to what was said yesterday into today, most likely as well. Are you going to be able to kind of withstand that noise heading to Dallas? Because the noise was loud yesterday. As you said, that was a team loss. There was a lot of things that you could complain about. There could be a lot of finger pointing. Can you get through that and just take care of business on Sunday? It's a massive question, especially being a road game and you got to travel now.
This is a test. This is a real test of what this particular team is. Forget last year. Last year's over. We're not in Kansas anymore, boys. We will be in a couple weeks, but we're not in Kansas anymore right now.
Kansas City.
And it's time now to figure out, what is this team about? Forget last year's team. That stuff's over now. What is this team about? All right, let's do the AAA review. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA, like 24/7 roadside assistance, plus 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive MVP events, and unforgettable experiences. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP upgrade for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to join the squad and put your fandom in drive. All right, let me start with this. The Wise injury, in watching this, the Dietrich Wise injury, I think for the first time this year really stood out to me in this particular game. Their run defense on the whole has been a lot better. And, it was just a week or two early with Wise where you could kind of see that manifest itself, albeit with the Giants that were figuring themselves out. But with the Packers, where that's not what beat them up in Green Bay, loving the passing offense and Washington's inability to get going early and trying to hang in there and really kind of a muddled offensive game plan that didn't really work out very well. That's what beat them up in Green Bay. But the Wise injury for the first time maybe Baptiste too, to a lesser degree. That's what stood out to me about this particular loss here. It was the first time that I watched the defense and saw the same problem that they had over and over a year ago, which was setting an edge and getting into the right run gap spots for the linebackers or the secondary players. This was a weakness against Chicago, and I'll give them credit. They tested these spots over and over, and they found out that it looked a lot more like 2024 than it had in 2025. So I'd say for the first time, what I saw was something closer to what they tried to fix in the offseason, and that is really the run defense, but not up the middle, on those edges where they were getting beat over and over and over.
Yeah, because I was going to say the plays that I loved the most were when the defensive line was kind of pushing up field and then holding and keeping Caleb contained. Like there were a couple plays there where it looked really buttoned up, where you knew Caleb wanted to take the ball and run or run outside the pocket. And they did a really good job of holding the line up and saying, we dare you to throw it. And usually those were errant passes. And then when they couldn't, that's when he made you pay, essentially. And they made some really clutch plays, or they were running to the edge and they end up, popping one out or whatever. I think Ben Johnson knew they couldn't do it consistently. That's why he kept testing it. I commend Johnson for doing it, because a lot of coaches, I think, would have just tapped out. He kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and it ended up working. They ended up getting the win anyways.
Secondarily off of it, the linebackers in the secondary had a really rough night against the run. There was one play where Darnell Wright blocked two members of the secondary at the same time into each other. On the big play to Swift, DJ Moore picked two of the Commanders, defenders on that play. It was close to being illegal, but they didn't call it, obviously. And then I'm not absolving. That was a bad tackle on the sideline that was a well-executed play that should have been gone for 10, 15 yards and a conversion, not a 55-yard touchdown. So that was unfortunate that happened. And that ain't Jaden's fumble. This is my point. It's not a team. This is a team loss. Like, Jaden didn't do that. Jaden had nothing to do with that. Jaden didn't get a stop. It wasn't on the field when they didn't get a stop at the end of the game. Jaden wasn't the one who was having trouble stopping the run. It had nothing to do with any of that. Jaden didn't miss a field goal. That's why I didn't like the finger pointing after the game, especially at him. Like, he's allowed to make a mistake every once in a while. I know how clutch he's been, and I trust him. And implicitly, he made two big mistakes in this game, and he owned it. He was the first one to own it, but he's not the only reason why they lost. Far from it. Far from it. And, to continue the thought on the run defense, again, the linebackers, listen, I don't want to pretend I'm a coach here, but because I never, I review it and I like to do it with a grain of salt. I'm not Logan or London, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know exactly what should be going on, but I've seen enough. I know enough that I know when it's wrong. And the linebackers in the secondary just had a really rough night, specifically on the edges. There just were people that were not in gaps, or they seem to be running into the wrong ones or running into their own players. So again, the run defense had a lot to be desired, and it was the first time it looked like 2024 where it was a problem was out on the edges.
Well, and I think what troubles me the most, though, is it's not like this was a team with an elite running back or an elite offensive line. I know
he's good. He's a good player. He's not a bad running back. He's a good player. Yeah, sure.
But I'm just saying he is not Bajan or some of those other types, or even Alshon Jeffrey, to be quite, or not Jeffrey. You know what I'm talking about. Genty. Ashton Genty. He's not even him. And I know he was kind of struggling when they played him, but I'm just saying I didn't expect it to be Swift to be the one to dagger them like they did. We talked about it. He is not normally the pass catching type running back, and he ends up crushing them on that. That's what I don't like about this defense right now. And I think this is where I think the overarching thing is happening this year. Every single week, there's some guy, whether it's a running back, a tight end, or a receiver, having a career day. That's where I'm troubled here. Is it just seems like at some point somebody is going to go off if you have more than one weapon. It's one guy each week, it seems. And I'm worried this weekend because it's either Ferguson or it's Pickens, most likely. One or the other is probably going to go off.
There are a couple things, and this is nitpicky because there's just a couple plays, but I think one is emblematic of the deck that Cliff is playing with right now. And the other one I'll bring up about the defense in a moment that I just want to stand out. And I don't like to pick any one particular play, but if you're going to point the finger at Jaden for dropping a snap, then you got to point the finger at Quan and Marshawn for not making a tackle, on what ended up being a 55-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter that had them blow this lead. But there was one I thought was very emblematic of the offense. Debo was clearly marginalized a little bit. I am wondering. I wonder what's going to be said about him this week. Does he need a week or two off of this heel? I don't know. I don't know. And like they made it sound to me like a week ago, like he's playing, we're just managing pain. It's not a very serious thing, but he wasn't the same the other night. And I say that in not just because he didn't have a lot of catches or a lot of runs or anything like that, but like if you watched him move, he wasn't moving at the same speed. So like clearly he's hurting a little bit. So I want to hear what they have to say about him. But on one particular play that they drew up to try to get him out on a screen, one, he's not moving as fast, which is, problematic. But secondarily, out on the edge when they set up a wide receiver screen, the blockers were Tay Martin and Colson Yankoff. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to play with who you have. And I guess my point is, like, and they were beaten on this play, and Debo goes down pretty quickly. He's not moving as fast as he normally does. And they're using primary backups in the case of one player, a guy who's just off the practice squad, because they're out of people. And so it's why I want to like just point this out as guys like Cliff has been playing with not a full deck, far from not a full deck of cards. He's trying to win in some weeks with 7-2 off, and in other weeks with a pair of fours. Like he does not have like the primary hand yet. I'm hoping that that's going to change really soon, but that play really stood out to me as emblematic of Debo was kind of beat up. They're trying to get him the ball anyway. And here they are with, players that aren't really primary starters for them as the people who are the setup men for the whole thing, because they're just playing with what they got. And I think it would just reminded me, and I think it should remind everybody, wait till they get their guys back. I want to see what this looks like if they ever get the whole complement or the majority of the complement of their guys. Terry, Noah Brown, Cosme. What does this look like when they're out there and playing?
No, I agree with you on that. I also, I saw a lot of bitching about the play call that like, oh, Jaden should have been under center, all of that, whatever. It was 3rd and 1, not 4th and 1. So you don't know if they were already going to, go for it if that went for no gain. The other side of that too is you can't complain about the 3rd and 1 about him, not being under center and bitch about that off of what he did with McNichols a couple plays before, where McNichols, breaks a couple tackles and converts on like, what was that, 3rd and 13? They had no business converting it. Like, you got to live and die with your offense. That was one of the complaints yesterday that I'm with you with Clip that I wasn't really hearing out. It's their system. It's how they are. It's how the modern era is. You can complain about it if you want, but really it was 3rd and 1, not 4th and 1. We know that they love to go for it. So I thought that was also overblown yesterday too, of like, he fumbled the ball. That was the problem, not the actual,
he made formation. A mistake. We're accustomed to him not making a mistake. He made a mistake. That's why, and I want everybody to back this guy. Like, get off his back. And on the thing, I was ridiculous about the not being under center. Okay, this is what they've done 8,000 times in this scenario last year into this year, and it worked like clockwork every time. I didn't hear you complaining about it then when it worked. So you know what? Like, don't stop doing what you're doing when 1 out of 50 doesn't go your way. This isn't Dusty with, I think I'll try the bullpen, do something different this time in the playoffs. Like it worked. He dropped the ball. Okay. It happens. He made a mistake. I'm on this guy's side. This guy has done way more good than bad. I don't have problems with him. He ain't our problem, right? So he made a mistake. They needed the defense to step up and get his back. They didn't do it this particular past week. So that, and I'm not absolving him of it. He fumbled the ball. He can't do that. But you know what? That was on their side of the field. They didn't stop him, and they didn't even leave time on the clock to get the ball back. That's on the defense. Like you didn't have to give up 2-3 first downs. And on that particular drive, the one play that really got me about that I watched, Washington's success pressure rate was a lot lower in this game than it was in the previous games. They were up over 45% in the previous game. So they were getting there with whatever packages they were using. In this case, it was down around 30%. So the Bears, again, 2 weeks, I want to give them credit. I thought they were the better team just in general, both sides of the ball. They're not as buttoned up in operation, I think, offensively as we are. I know nobody wants to hear that today, but I think that's part of the thing here. which is why the score was 25-24 and we had all these mistakes and they couldn't put us away and we're losing in the fourth quarter after all of that. But the one late that got me was it was like 3rd and 8. And this is the one where this is where I'm asking the defense needs to step up and make a stop. Washington faux blitzed, rushed 4, weren't getting home the whole game with 4. And Caleb took a layup to a player who was just waiting at a spot and laid on the ground, smartly laid on the ground, made the first down. That was the ball game to me. So if we could have a do-over of one particular play on that side of the field, it's actually that one. That in a winning time moment, yeah, Jaden dropped the ball. He kind of can't do that. In a winning time moment where they could have got a stop, I think they got away from that. It's risky to bring people, obviously, but like they weren't winning with 4. Their pressure rate was down. And that conversion really is the ball game here. Like, had they made a stop there, the Bears would have had to go for it on a 4th down, and we would have seen what had happened. And that's the one I would point at and go, I didn't love that particular decision. I didn't love that decision because it wasn't working earlier in the game. That's all.
Yeah, no, I would have rather had you try to force Caleb to make a fast decision. We've seen that he does struggle with that, and he's doing better at it this year. But I would have much rather seen him force that, and that's easier to defend too. If Joe Witt Jr., is asked about it tomorrow and they blitz and it worked or doesn't work, he would have said, we were trying to force that decision. You can kind of live with that. I can't live with playing it safe when you really need to make something happen. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. All right. Let me take a quick break. For those of you who are listening to the radio or the podcast, you'll hear a segment from the booth review with me and London Fletcher, kind of going back over the game. For those of you on YouTube, stick around for this next. Brad Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA like 24/7 roadside assistance plus 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive MVP events, and unforgettable experiences. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP upgrade free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to join the squad and put your fandom in drive. All right, a few quick topics before we go. Jerry Jones went on the radio yesterday and said, we're in it, and they are open to making a trade for a defensive player after earlier this year trading the best defensive player in the NFL. So Jerry being Jerry these days. Jerry being Jerry.
What does Jerry mean, though? Because Jerry has said he's quote-unquote all in at times, and then they don't make a lot of moves. So, Jerry's just talk for me until I actually see it. That's how I feel about it with him at this point.
Let's see. Traylon Burks did work out for the Commanders yesterday. He was a first-round pick of a few years ago. He's unfortunately had a lot of injuries, including a broken collarbone. He's available basically because of that reason. And he is not unlike Drake Jackson, who they signed, similar situation, high draft pick, had a lot of injuries, missed a lot of time. Listen, I'm all for acquiring talent, and I've said this from the get-go. I said in the summer, they need to get another receiver. I'm surprised they haven't gotten another receiver. I don't know, even if they sign him, I get your expectations low. I don't know what physical health he's in right now, and it would take time to incorporate in the offense and all that stuff. But I am all for talented people being acquired to help.
And what I would say here, too, is when you get a former first-round pick from an organization that's been basically a mess since he's gotten there, I like that upside a little bit more than, let's say a guy that didn't work out for the 49ers, right? Like this guy basically had to go under the expectations of being the next A.J. Brown before he played a snap there. And then we've talked about how terrible that offense was the last couple of years. I know he hasn't been healthy, but I'll take the upside here, and I'm with you. Expectations super low, but hey, when you have a really good quarterback like Jaden Daniels, they can kind of bring the best out of some guys like this. So hopefully this does end up working out any signs. Right.
And like, even if he does make it, he doesn't walk in where they're asking him to be a number one receiver.
Right.
Like they're asking him to be a number 3 at best. Like, so I think it's actually a very good scenario to take a chance on somebody. It's very little cost. He's got a lot of talent and he's going to get a second do-over. It's really about physical health to me. And what kind of health is he in? And we'll find out. I loved this line. Rodgers versus Flacco tomorrow night is the Icy Hot Bowl. And I love that Rodgers could laugh about it. I loved that because I think it was Cam Hayward who yelled, it's the Icy Hot Bowl at them. And he started laughing about it. That's line of the year. You win, sir. Good one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. You got two quarterbacks pushing 40 on a Thursday nighter too. So it's not just them, it's everybody. That one has potential to be like a dumb score, like 12-10 or something. I can see it being really low scoring on that one.
I'd like 3-2. That would be incredible. I'd love a 3-2 football game. All right, last thing. Capitals beat the Lightning in overtime last night. Power play finally scored. That was nice to see that. Came back in the third. That was nice to see that. Scored quickly in overtime. So what do you think about the Caps win last night?
Did not lead the entire game. They were playing from behind the entire time, then finally got the overtime winner from Jacob Chychrun. Nice to see him get on the score sheet after they paid him a lot of money last year. Not to say that after 3 games, there was like this insane pressure. Nice to see the power play goal. The Connor McMichael assist on Alexi Protas's goal was ridiculous. If you haven't seen this yet, go look it up. McMichael passes it. He's going behind the goaltender, passes it to Protas before he goes to the other post. Vasilevsky thought he was moving so fast, he was looking at the other post, and Protas just puts him right by it. One of the sickest assists I've seen in a long time. The quote-unquote number 1 line of Protas, McMichael, and Wilson is unreal right now. Really good. That's when you file away for the playoffs. That's going to be hard to stop. So I really like that win last night. And it's 3 games in 4 nights for the Caps after that last night. Now they have, I think, 4 of 5 at home. So a nice little homestand for them. Hopefully they can build on the points moving ahead.
And off tonight, right? They're off tonight.
No off tonight. Yeah, they're back on Friday. Back on Friday.
Back on Friday. Okay, so they have a couple days here. All right, last thing real quick. I saw Pierre-Luc Dubois hurt. Hockey teams never tell you what it is. Do you know? Is it bad? Do you know?
I know he left the game early on Sunday and then didn't play for like the last 8 minutes, something like that. I don't know how bad it is. I do know this though. The Capitals are still trying to give Hendrix Lapierre a look. They scratched him on Sunday. Then they put him back in the lineup because they kind of had to. Lapierre's on his last legs here with the Caps. So you know what? I bet you the Caps are kind of looking at this like, let's see what this kid has, because we saw him score a couple goals a couple years ago on opening night, and then it's kind of fallen off for him. Give the kid an opportunity. Let's see what he's got. But with Dubois, they do miss him. The only face-off man in the lineup now is Nick Dowd. Like, he was going out there on overtime, winning a face-off, and then rushing off the ice, essentially. That's not ideal for them, so they need him back. I don't know how serious it is, though.
Thankfully, the game was on ESPN, Ted and Zach, last night, so I could catch some of it. Because, I have YouTube TV, and I guess I'm shut out of the whole thing. I just want to say this. I love Joe and Craig, but, like, Bob Wischusen's really good, like, as a hockey play-by-play guy. Like, he does college football. He does the Jets, which, oh, my God, that must be a disaster this year. And he does hockey. He's really good. Really good on hockey.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital.